Hello?
Satan.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, my fucking uh internet's been really wonky recently, but I just like put my computer to sleep and put it back on again. It seems to be working a bit better now. So just give me like half a minute. I'll be right with you.
Okay, I get it. It's typical performance anxiety.
Sure. Uh, where is
Hope you're not like this with women, buddy.
okay. Sure. Uh, okay, so I'm gonna hope that everything is fine now. Let me just look at my channel. That seems to be fine. Uh, okay, is everything good? I think so. All right, I think we're fine. Let me just check
That's great. Wonderful news as
the voice
always.
stuff. Okay. All right. So, before we start this, I think everyone kind of knows what's going to happen from the title here, but before we start any of this, I'm gonna have to lay down two ground rules. First ground rule is if you call me a nigger or a faggot or any of the other things that I am commonly called, uh, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Second thing, second thing, if at any point you say something that I find to be particularly outlandish, I reserve my right to use this bottle of alcohol that I just happened to have. Actually, had it there before I even started the stream. Uh, and I will drink from it quite furiously, possibly. But either way, I will quite possibly need to get through this. So, yeah. So, our topic today, as we both discussed before getting on here, is race and economics. Now, when you specified this topic, I was not exactly 100% on like what specifically you wanted to discuss. Let me just move this over
I
here.
specified the utility of race being one of them.
Yes, exactly. So you wanted to speak about the utility of race. So my position is obviously from race abolitionist perspective. I believe that uh, race as a concept should be abolished, and you, I presume, believe something different.
Okay, I understand. So I'll give first really good argument about why race can be abolished and why race abolitionism seems pretty absurd as a position.
Let's go.
I'll start with a hypothetical. One
Mm-hmm.
day you're at a barbecue, you're lighting off fireworks, and one of them goes astray. They blow your nipples off. That's a scientific term, by the way. And the only people who they can use to transplant are a white guy, and they give you the nipples of a white guy. That's not going to look right.
No, I guess not. What's your point?
Race is a valid category for many reasons outside of the leftist understanding of it, especially when it comes to anatomy and science, such as losing body parts and having it replaced with one of a race that looks very different from yours is kind of a problem. It's even a problem if, like, let's say, for example, you're prim- you're primarily black. I'm not even using that as an insult. If they replaced like a black finger with like an Arabic finger, you could still tell that there's a difference there. So race clearly has at least some goodness to it as a concept. It has some utilities to it and some reasons for it existing.
So what you're trying to tell me here is that you can tell the difference between a black finger and an Arabic finger of similar skin kind of pigmentation?
You can
Is
tell the
that
difference whether it's similar or diametrically opposing pigmentation. It's very obvious and noticeable, hence why there's not many
you can tell the
transplants.
difference between an Arabic nipple and a black nipple?
Most of the time, yes. I'm not even using that as like a big sexual argument or anything like that. I'm
Let's
being
move it
as
to the
medical
fucking
as
finger.
possible.
Can you like explain to me the mechanics of this? Like what
Okay.
specifically differentiates the black finger from the Arabic finger?
They have darker skin toning
No,
usually.
I
This is
said an Arabic finger and a black finger of the exact same pigmentation.
oh. Well those generally don't happen. Like
That
on
that never
average if this
happens.
happens,
That never
no, it
happened.
generally wouldn't happen that there's going to be a black person, an
I
Arabic person
strongly
with similar
disagree. Have you
pigmentation.
ever met a black or an Arabic person in your life? Just a
Yes, I
question.
have.
Have
I
you,
have met
you
black and Arabic people in real life.
and you've never met a black person that was lighter than an Arabic person ever?
I have, but generally even there's
So it's
you can call
possible.
me
So it's possible.
it's
A
possible, but it
black.
won't be the
It doesn't
average
matter.
though.
It doesn't matter. Who cares about the average? I'm concerned about whether it's possible. So it's possible, yes or no?
It it is in fact possible. That is correct.
Okay, so what? So why does that prove? So why does your point prove the validity of race if there can be a black finger and an Arabic finger that are basically indistinguishable from one another?
Hmm. Well, my point still stands even if that
No, it
happens
really
because
doesn't. It doesn't stand at all. It doesn't. You have to prove that. You can't just say it stands. It doesn't stand. It's a very bad argument. So you're gonna have to come up with a new one.
okay. Well, since you did bring up how that argument can be used for similar pigmentation, I'll concede that one and go on to my other argument that I used, the first one, where the pigmentations aren't similar. Where
But who cares about those cases? The fact is that they can be similar to basically indistinguishable. So why is this arbitrary um position of race, why does that matter if there is significant overlap between these categories to the point where the body parts therein that you were referring to are indistinguishable from each other in certain instances? Therefore, if these categorizations are extremely indistinct and indiscrete, why is it therefore necessary?
um
Yep, I'm waiting.
yeah, you threw a pretty good one out there.
Did you even think about this before? Did you even think about any of this before getting on stream with me? Do you know who I
I
am?
figured
Do you know who I
yeah, I
am?
know you're an
I'm not. I'm
yeah, I know
not
you're an
someone to fuck around with.
I know you're an anarchist type and you're generally pretty serious with how you argue. I figured that this argument, like, I thought that there was no way that this argument could be debunked. I thought it was the ultimate
That
one
was an
for
awful
racism.
argument. I didn't even take 1 second to think of a counter argument. It took no effort from me. This wasn't even a thunker. How could you think this was a good argument? This was the worst
Usually,
argument I've ever
I
heard.
see. I have been successful with this argument against other leftists,
Yeah,
and
because you
they'll point
probably
out that
talked to some fucking stupid leftists. Again, I must ask, do you know who I am?
yes, I know who you are. You're generally very serious, and I'm gonna be blunt, very aggressive on like your channel. I've seen your video on Autism Speaks, for example. I wasn't unprepared here. I didn't come in here blind
It seems
or
like you
deaf.
did. Cause I offered what was the most basic kind of rebuttal, so it's clear that you didn't think about what could a person say in response to this. So since
Well,
you're
I did come
stumped
up with
at
a
the
rebuttal of
first
my own, but you disregarded the
sort of
averages.
basic question to this, you clearly didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it, did you? And you must therefore question, did you spend a lot of time thinking about anything that you think at all?
I do spend quite an extensive time thinking about my positions. I
All right,
reevaluate them.
so
I rarely.
let's go to another subject then, since you think so hard, long and hard about them. Let's go.
Okay. Do you believe that the only way to stop climate change as it exists is through socialist means?
Uh, it depends on what you mean by socialist. I believe that it could possibly be done within a liberal context. But I do believe it
Oh,
requires even within that liberal context, I believe that pretty much the only reasonable way of dealing with it is through nationalization and complete control of the energy industry. Basically, like a complete command economy on the energy industry. Because I think we need like dead ass like great leap forward kind of shit for that.
okay. That's a pretty interesting take. Are you aware that plenty of people that are millionaires and the bourgeoisie, as you put it, do not want to see the earth die?
Sure.
So, do you recognize that there can be market-based solutions to climate change, or do you deny that?
Well, the problem is that most of the people running these companies are incredibly old and really don't give a fuck about any of this. They're mostly boomers and silent generation types, so they have no real vested interest in this. And we can't just, I mean, like we could rip the means of production from them, but then you'd be agreeing with me.
Hmm. I'm not against voluntary unions or anything like that. I'll post a source for one of the claims I made regarding this. I'm not gonna.
I'm not concerned with unions. In fact, in terms of how we deal with climate change, the rights of workers are completely relevant to me on that front. I think that in terms of dealing with such an existential threat, a top-down solution is basically the only thing that's going to work.
How many sources do you want me to post for my claims? Do you want there to be a lot or just a few?
I'll ask you if I need a source.
Okay then. Hmm.
Okay, so what do you think about black people? Are they like dumber on average?
Um. Well, I'm gonna give you the politically incorrect answer, but I'm not
Okay.
sure if you're gonna consider that tantamount to saying the N word. Will you?
Dude, you can do whatever you want on this stream. I don't care. I
Okay.
ain't saying it.
So, yeah, the current data I acknowledge and agree with that black people on average do have lower IQ. And
Do you
this
think that's
appears
because of
not to be.
genetics?
It looks like that most certainly. I can provide you a source on why I'm leaning towards that direction.
Okay.
Hold on.
Can you summarize so that I don't spend a billion years reading your
Yeah,
source on stream? Can you summarize what point that source is attempting to make first before sending it? So that if I can
the
easily
source overall
debunk this
says
before
that
even looking
people
at it.
are
Yes?
getting, yeah, the source says overall on average people are dumber than they.
That's a demonstrable lie. Have you ever heard of the Flynn effect?
The what?
The Flynn effect.
I have not.
Well, all of the data on intelligence that currently exists points to something called the Flynn effect, which is the exact opposite of the lie that Charles Murray promoted in his book, The Bell Curve. Basically, the idea is if you actually track IQ data over extended periods of time, then IQ scores have been dramatically increasing since these tests have been implemented. That's what all of the scientific data shows on this.
Okay.
It's very well known. It's undisputed within the scientific community.
Right, but I'm not using the bell curve as a source.
It doesn't matter if you're using the bell curve. The fact is that the Flynn effect is still a real effect and it's still undisputed within the scientific community. So the exact opposite of what you're trying to purport is the case.
Okay. Yeah. So I did. So I'm about to provide the source right here. It just says essentially what I said earlier.
Feel free to send
It's
it.
not from. Yeah, it's not from like a super far right evil site like that or any shit like that.
Sure. You gonna send it or what?
Yeah, I put it in the voice chat.
Hmm.
Voice text right there.
Oh, I see it. Like you tossing out culture bias. So, Great Enlightenment. Let's see what that is.
It literally denies the premise of the Dark Enlightenment. So if you're gonna use that as a case, then
What's
I wouldn't.
What's the Dark Enlightenment?
The Dark Enlightenment is the Landian philosophy of actual neo-reactionaries, where they'd create a corporate republic in the U.S. It's a broad school of thought, and it generally relates to modern day supposed and actual reactionary politics as a whole.
Okay, I have
The
no
Gray
idea.
Enlightenment, by and large, denies those premises.
Okay, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. What's your okay? Appears to be the pen name of either this Turkish guy. Sounds like a Turkish guy. Okay, so this is a no-name website. I don't know why I should take this seriously.
You should, because the rest of the claims made there you'd probably generally agree with.
Well, this is far too long for me to read on my stream. But like I said,
Understood.
this supposed evidence by a website I've never heard of, Concord Coalition. I'm pretty sure I've heard that name. If I remember correctly, the Concord Coalition is a neo-Nazi group. So let's look that up. I may be wrong on this, so let's see. No, I was wrong. The Concord Coalition is not a neo-Nazi group. It was some sort of bipartisan organization. Promotes fiscal conservatism, I guess. Wait, this is a national debt as percentage of GDP. What does this fucking have to do with anything? None of these, well, I mean, like, just skimming through it, none of these graphs seem to prove the point that. Wait, hold on. This is wrong task. The wrong fucking page. Arthur Jensen. Who's Arthur Jensen? American psychologist. So they're citing a person who a 2019 study found to be the most controversial intelligence researcher. Sounds a bit like a Nazi.
Wait, is intelligence research tantamount?
No, I said he's he. Okay, let me read the quote. Jensen was controversial largely for his conclusions regarding the causes of race-based differences in intelligence. Presumably, his conclusions were that black people are stupid. A 2019 study found him to be the most controversial intelligence researcher among 55 persons covered. So that's why I would say that he probably sounds like a Nazi, not because he's an intelligence researcher.
Okay.
Well, I do not have the time to read this on stream, but I strongly doubt that.
Yeah,
considering the quality of the
overload you with sources.
Well, either way, considering the quality, you can really tell what kind of the honesty of the information being put forward based on who they decide to cite. That being, if they decide to cite people like Arthur Jensen, you get the feeling that they're not trying to present like an unbiased view of what the actual scientific consensus is on this, but they're trying to reach for the most controversial fucking racist people and only focus on their studies to try to push a fucking white supremacist narrative. This happens all the time, for the most prominent example being the bell curve.
Okay. Just chatting with a Nazi.
You sent me a link from the alternativehypothesis.org. Dude, you know I'm
Okay.
not going to take Nazi sources seriously, right? I know it's a Nazi source. I'm not going to take that seriously.
His name is People's Veto, and he
Yeah,
has
he's a
like the arrow
Nazi.
sign.
I know who the alternative hypothesis is. He's a Nazi.
I'm pretty sure his name is People's Veto. That doesn't sound Nazi-ish. That sounds very democratic to me. That doesn't sound like the type of thing that a Nazi would do. Generally, they hate democracy.
Because he had the, what are you talking about? The Nazis came into power democratically, and they used populist like rhetoric. They didn't, what?
Okay,
They called themselves National Socialists.
if you talk to any
Do you think that
modern-day
Nazis don't
national,
know anything about fucking branding?
okay, if you talk to any like modern-day National Socialist, or you look at any of the speeches from those guys back in the day, they weren't fond of parliamentary or democracy. They're more fond of the totalitarian one-party state. They're fascists, for goodness sake. People's Veto
Well,
doesn't seem to
well,
be a fascist.
well, yes. However, one, they were elected into office. At least the Nazis were, not technically Mussolini. But more importantly, people can learn how to brand better since 1945. We don't have to be fucking stupid about it. I mean, like, if you're a Nazi wanting to take control of the government and establish a fascist kind of state, the best way would be through the democratic process. The bad way would be to try to like lead some sort of militia to take over the federal government, because that wouldn't work. Uh, and it would just be counterproductive to what you want to try to do here. So you would, if you were a fascist, want to champion democracy up until the point that you got the power, which is borne out by like most historical like rises to power of fascist regimes. Unless you count the ones that the US kind of put into place.
Oh yeah, the U.S. installed ones that I heard so much about.
Yeah,
Like
do you not know about
Pinochet
them?
was one of
Yeah,
what?
yeah, like Pinochet.
Okay, I've
Are you
heard
gonna
about
tell
that
me
from
that
like
Pinochet's like not wasn't installed by the US?
No, I'm pretty sure that's true. Albeit the source was dubious, but it sounds definitely true. It was like libertarian socialist rants or some shit said that.
Oh, you don't have to trust libertarian socialist strands. Just like read a fucking book on it. There've been tons of like academic literature on it. It's well known.
Okay.
You don't have to trust a YouTuber. You don't. In fact, I feel like generally you seem to trust YouTubers a lot when you could actually, read. It's an option.
I'm not anti-reading. I'm not some book-burning witch.
It kind of seems like you are, because, well, I mean, it seems like the only reading you tend to do is on incredibly biased websites like the Alternative Hypothesis. Uh, that being said, I am aware that, like, I mean, to a certain extent, I do this too. A lot of people like to confirm their own biases, but you got to do more than just that. You got to actually, read the actual academic literature on a topic that you're interested in.
Okay.
Basically, you want to be
Would
really wary of people's biases, because people have very strong biases, and you always want to take that into account when you're doing any sort of an analysis. That's why a lot of like pundits nowadays on like mainstream cable networks are like so bad at predicting things, because you're stuck in the kind of Washington bubble in terms of like the way that they think, and they're unable to see or perhaps unwilling to see that a bias is clearly formed for quite a long time on certain issues. I think that's a large failing of human cognition in general, and seems to be quite manifest within the way that you think.
Okay, since economics is such a broad topic, I want to start with any numbers of questions. So I'm going to go by some basic presuppositions here. Do you
Sure.
believe that under capitalism there should be regulations?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that nationalization should occur under capitalism?
Sure.
Which industries do you believe should be nationalized under capitalism?
Well, then you can't really ask me that question because I don't believe capitalism should be around in the first place. So, asking me
Well,
that question
as long
is
as capitalism exists, like right now, you're choosing your candidate and they said they're going to nationalize XYZ industries. What do you want those industries to be? For example, um, the current dilemma with socialists and how they love Bernie Sanders.
hello.
Hello?
Yes. What are you saying?
Yeah, I was pointing out how socialists have a current dilemma with picking somebody who represents their views to best but is still electable, hence the Bernie Sanders one. And I'm asking you specifically, would you vote for him because he wants to nationalize things such as healthcare?
Well, healthcare, I believe the only logical thing. I don't believe that there's really any other viable argument besides nationalization. I believe that any other kind of like um system is basically a fantasy. With regards to the other things that Bernie wants to nationalize, for example, he wants free university. I'm not completely convinced that that would work under capitalism just because of diminishing returns on like the value of education in general. We see that a lot in certain countries that have implemented this. And to a certain extent that might be helpful in certain aspects, but there's also a large drawback that perhaps would not exist under a socialist system. But with regards to healthcare, if you ask about healthcare, then yeah, I believe that the only real viable option for healthcare is a monopsony type system in which the government has is the single payer.
Why should, under the framework of capitalism as it exists right now, there be a single payer system to healthcare?
You know what a monopsony is in terms of economics?
Yes, it's when there's only one buyer.
Yes, and do you know why that is an extremely helpful thing?
No, not really. I've never heard somebody defend monopsony. I've heard people defend monopolies, but not monopsonies. No.
Okay, so when basically when you need something from a certain class of producers, for example, the producers of pharmaceutical drugs and the producers of health care in general, uh, then what you want to do is you want to get the one might call the lowest price for what you're asking for. If you're, for example, a if you're if you're like just a regular civilian not in the industry or anything, uh, the reason why monopsonies are particularly helpful for things like healthcare, which everyone needs, uh, and pretty much doesn't have it. Basically, like the entire pharmaceutical industry has a captive buying market because everyone needs healthcare, so they don't have a choice about like whether they're going to get it or not. And most people don't have multiple choices in terms of which companies that can actually access healthcare from. Um, so in that sort of a situation, what you'd want is to have a single payer, because a monopsony is the best possible in terms of a very literal sense, as in mathematically it is the best possible situation that a buying market could be in, because they have total control over all sort of like buying of pharmaceutical drugs. So there's a counteraction of the sort of live captive uh, market of the healthcare industry. There's a counteraction of that with the power of the monopsony of the government being able to pretty much negotiate on behalf of the people of the country what prices it wants to set. Because as it exists now, the consumers pretty much have no or very little bargaining power. Basically, the point of single payer is to increase that bargaining power to the greatest possible extent.
Okay. The next few are just going to be basic questions out of curiosity, none that I necessarily will agree or disagree with. You understand that?
Sure.
Okay. Do you think that are you an anarcho-communist or an anarcho-syndicalist?
I don't believe those two things are mutually exclusive.
Which one would you be more, if I were to ask you, which one would be a more accurate label?
You're making a category error here.
Anarcho-syndicalism
and anarcho-communism refer to completely separate spheres of revolution. So you speak of these things as though you can be one or the other, but it is like asking, are you, I don't know, are you a revolutionary? Or this is actually kind of the perfect thing. Are you a revolutionary or are you an electoralist? There's a category error here in that you believe that somehow you cannot be both at the same time. Well, actually, no. This is not even a particularly accurate comparison. I can't just think of a really good one at the same time, because at least like electoralism and revolutionary stuff like refers to the same thing. Anarcho-syndicalism and anarcho-communism don't even refer to the same sphere of like discussion, really.
Okay, I think I get where you were going with that, but I still think that you made a fundamental error. The problem there is that, well, I acknowledge they're not mutually exclusive. Somebody has to be more of one than the other. I
No, that's not
acknowledge
true.
that.
That's fundamentally untrue. In fact, if a person had to be more than one than the other, then by definition it would be mutually exclusive.
Having a
You just
higher
that's
gradient of
self-contradictory. By definition, if you had to be, if being more of one necessitated being less of the other, that's the definition of mutually exclusive.
which one is more
Because
accurate to
one is
describe you what
excluding
I'm
the
asking?
other. No, but you're making an error. These things are not mutually exclusive, but you're asking me as though they are.
Okay, I understand. Here's a good one. Mutual aid. Do you believe that mutual aid is superior to charity?
I mean, I guess, but I don't believe that these two things need to operate in the same space. Again, you're speaking as though there must be one or the other.
I'm
This
not
isn't the
speaking
case.
as if they're diametrically opposed. I'm speaking as which one do you think would be more efficient?
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. When you ask that, the hidden assumption is that there must be one or the other. Because you're asking which one is more efficient in order to implement one or the other. But what I'm saying is that these two things need not occupy the same realms. As in, charity may be more useful in certain areas than it is in other areas, and perhaps mutual aid would be better in those areas. But perhaps mutual aid is not as good as charity in certain other areas.
Do you currently engage in mutual aid in your personal living?
No, I don't like people.
Okay, makes sense. Um, hmm. Do you think that mutual aid will be as prominent in theory as it will be in your society if executed?
What? I don't know
Do
what
you
you're
think
asking.
mutual aid, do you think mutual aid will actually happen in reality in your society?
I don't know. My society doesn't necessitate mutual aid. Uh, like I'm not like a fucking Kropotkinist or whatever. I don't think that mutual aid is like the backbone of or needs to be the backbone of society. Maybe like really far in the future, where like the value of goods in themselves due to like a lack of scarcity has become like basically like acquiring things has become less important. But beyond that, uh, I mean, it couldn't. I don't really care either way. I would say that it has existed before in perhaps less advanced civilizations. The question about whether it can exist currently in a sort of post-capitalist system is still up for question because a true post-capitalist system hasn't actually occurred yet. So, uh, it's still up for question, I suppose, but it doesn't matter that much. So I guess my answer would be it would be a nice, like having a society kind of fundamentally based off mutual aid and post-capitalist society might be a interesting experiment, but I don't believe that it is in the sort of a modern context any sort of inevitability that it would work. I don't believe anything really is an inevitability that it would work.
Okay, so you've defined expectations in a few ways as I've made some presuppositions about you based on your belief system that you hold in your videos and the iconography you wear. So I think it's appropriate now, since they've been disproven in some ways, that I ask you, what are your actual beliefs?
What do you think's been disproven?
Some of the beliefs that I've had about you,
Okay.
such as
First question, I gotta ask, do you think that my intelligence is in some way related to my Jewness? Just give me an honest
um,
answer. Do you think that the Ashkenazi kind of gave
well,
me
it
like a
depends on
force
like how many
multiplier?
people in your family with like the how many people that were doing the banging or getting banged were Jews. It depends on that.
About 5%.
Okay. I'm gonna say it plays definitely a role. I'm not sure how much,
Okay.
but yeah, you've proven me wrong in a few fields because I saw you. I knew your types of beliefs. Okay, I've debated X amount of anarchist, social anarchist, anarcho-communist. He should be in category Y. Oh, they don't actually believe in one of this big backbones. This is a bit unexpected, so please tell me what are your more concrete and actualized beliefs.
Well, I'm a libertarian socialist. The society that I believe that any society beyond the society that I advocate for is purely theoretical and may or may not actually work out. I don't know, nor do I care because I don't expect to live that long. Uh, the ones that I kind of hope to happen are just like, to put it very, very simply, uh, sort of normally uh, partially nationalized, partially sort of like socialized through means of worker class unions, that sort of thing. Uh, Economic system, uh, possibly starting first in the first world, uh, that would be for-profit driven for a while until a full global socialist revolution has taken place. After which there can be, over rather gradual sort of period of time, I don't expect this to take place over a very quick period of time, some sort of movement towards open borders, uh, lack of a profit motive, um, dissolution of nations in general. Um, I mentioned lack of profit, right? Yeah. Am I missing out on anything? I think I'm gonna leave it at that for now, unless I think of anything important later on. But yeah.
Okay, so from what I've gathered, a profitless society, one where there's nationalization and worker co-ops
Yeah, that would be the
isn't
end goal.
okay.
Basically, the third stage of the three-part plan. The first part being, I don't know, social democracy. I'm kind of I'm kind of skeptical about the difficulty of actually. Well, let me not get into that really, but yeah, about that.
Okay, my big question is, what are your critiques of current business models, and why do you think that social democracy is a good substitution for those business models that exist?
Oh my god, this is so fucking boring. Can we just talk about race? Who gives a shit about those?
Well, you did a pretty good job knocking that one out of the park, since I didn't really care too much to debate other things regarding race, since this one I thought was really, really fucking good, since nobody else was able to debunk it. And then you come here crushing my hopes and dreams for humanity remaining unique. It was
Sure.
just, yeah.
So, like,
Well,
races need to exist for humanity to be unique.
that's not the only purpose of them, but I do think that's most definitely a good purpose. Do you think a world where everybody looked the same would be an interesting world?
I wouldn't think much of it either way. Uh, what about before humans like spread past Africa and we all look the same then? Was it like misery because
We were at a literal
there was no
primitive state.
speciation? But was it misery
We were at
because there was no speciation?
It was
Do
most
you think
certainly a daunting time that we overcame for good reason. We
No,
should
but do you
not go
think that
back
the
there.
lack of races was a serious consideration for people before the existence of races? Do you think that that was in any way serious consideration? Do you think that they even knew
No, people wouldn't
about the
consider
even the
that
concept?
because
Okay, so let's say that races were to disappear, right? And then eventually it became so normalized that it was like that time before there were races in which like it was completely normal for everyone to look the same. Then would you think that there would be some sort of misery to this? Because you seem to be looking at it as though overnight everyone would be the same, but in reality you wouldn't notice it happening. You would die long before that. the people who would live to see that would have lived through generations of this already kind of generally being the norm, because it's not going to happen at a sort of like incredibly fast rate. It's going to be completely unnoticeable.
Okay, I fully 100% acknowledge that this is not going to happen within our lifetime. This is going to happen a few generations down the line. But still, it's not something good for humanity.
Why?
Okay, have you ever looked at two, you know how like certain women can look different from different races and still appear very pretty?
Yes.
You know how Gwyneth Paltrow looks different from Jada Smith?
Jaden Smith?
Jada.
You mean Jada Pinkett Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
They look very fucking different, don't they?
Yeah.
Isn't that unique about the world? Isn't that literal diversity
Do you think
that
that
like
people wouldn't look different in the future?
uh
Do you think
probably
that we're
not.
actually gonna be like literal clones? And like there's gonna be like no actual genetic diversity at all? Because the
There
races
will
are
be
mixed?
some genetic diversity such as
Do
height
you think that the
differences,
genetic
weight
diversity that
differences.
exists will be in any way diminished? Or would it increase? Because that's how genetic
It would
diversity
be diminished
works.
since the
No,
races
that
would
that's not
be
true.
like pretty
That's not
down
true.
there.
That's not true. As people from around the world meet, the genetic diversity goes up. Now, because you only think it goes down because this extremely specific aspect of genetics that you're looking at happens to be one of the few areas that would decrease in genetic diversity, right? But that doesn't mean that genetic diversity in itself would decrease. So, why do I bring this up? It's because traits that would be commonly associated with people like Europeans, for example, different color hair, eyes, that sort of things, or traits that would be associated with Asians, like the fucking eye thing that they have. Uh, these traits would not necessarily disappear, just because at the end of the day, even though the concept of races may kind of fade into the background as the current paradigm that we're working with becomes unusable as what we know as races currently become unrecognizable. The fact is that these things called ethnicities will still exist because they always have and they always will. Because as people grow up in geographically distinct areas, that will necessarily happen. Now, due to this, that means that there will still be a lot of diversity throughout the world. It just won't be on a racial kind of basis. It will be on an ethnic basis.
Okay, I never denied ethnicities wouldn't exist. I don't think anybody
So
denies
why
that
do you
even
think
in
that
like
so why would you think that diversity would decrease? Because
because there would
ethnicities
still
would
be
still
a
exist.
general similarity in skin tone, even if there's still
So
diversity
skin no,
nonetheless.
but that's not true either. That's not true. Uh even to like even within your lifetime, if you move between a hot climate and a cold climate, your skin color will actually uh, darken or lighten based on where you are. Uh, Temperature and things like geography, uh, now and forever, will impact the look of people. That's just how humans work because they have to adapt to their surroundings. The only reason you're not seeing this is because the sort of internationalism that has existed is an extremely new phenomenon that is occurred so fast as to not have the sort of genetic smoothing by geography that you would normally see in in these in these sort of circumstances, because these sort of things happen over an extremely long period of time. But that doesn't mean, were we to survive climate change, that these processes somehow stop. They don't. They will continue.
Even though there are different environments, they're like the general skin tone is going to stay the same. If you look at like a black, I
That's not
guarantee
true.
that if
That's not true. Like I said, even if you were,
yeah,
for
they'll
example, a black person living in the Caribbean or in Central Africa, and then you moved to Europe and then lived there over the course of like 30 years, for example, your skin would become whiter. Same if you were white and then you moved, perhaps to an even more dramatic extent, if you were white and then you moved to Central Africa, your skin would become significantly darker, because that's how that works. Humans adapt to their surroundings, and those genetic adaptations are often passed down genetically.
there would still be less diversity than there is now.
But
Do you know how many
that's
races
objectively untrue. That's just
that is true?
I
Do you know how
I
many races there are now?
how many races there are now. The
Anywhere from
number.
5 to 300.
Okay, well, the number of races that exists now is completely arbitrary. So is the number of ethnicities. Humans decide how many races and ethnicities there are. You can't find actual biological uh, determinations of the boundaries of race in, like, the DNA of people. That's something that humans determine.
Do you really believe that in like this
Yes.
world, this mixed race cosmopolitan utopia that where everybody is mixed and there are no such thing left as the Asians, the whites, the blacks, the Arabs, that there would be a variety of different colorful people ranging from like your average, ooh, this person is dark skinned, but however, they're lighter than that person, that there would be so much genetic diversity to the point where in skin tones that it's more diverse than
If
right
anything,
now.
it would increase, because then we'd actually start focusing on. If anything, there would be more diversity, because then we'd start focusing on ethnicities rather than races. Things that actually, like, are useful for differentiating the looks of people. So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. Um, I provided some sources for me, so is there anything really regarding the source of the claim that if the world was more mixed, that there'd be more genetic diversity and more diversity in skin tone as well?
I don't understand what you're asking.
You know those National Geographic magazines that say this is the future, X point of years from now, blatant anti-white bullshit like that? Is there any
Who the
proof that
fuck reads National Geographic? Morons. But continue. No, I haven't read it.
magazines like those have claims like those with like pictures like that? That's meant to be inflammatory, but albeit is a unfortunate and sad reality, ending real diversity. Is there any proof that this end of real diversity will lead to um the world that you described, where actually there's going to be a variety of gradients in people?
You're asking me to provide proof that people would react a certain way to a world that has never existed?
That there will be a diversity in skin colors in this post-race world?
I just described to you the processes through which skin colors are developed. Skin colors were not passed down through the heavens from God. They were formed naturally through genetic selection because of geographic and temperate circumstances. There's no reason to think that these processes would suddenly conclude. They wouldn't.
Okay. Hey, um, it's getting late, so I'm gonna try wrapping this up
Okay,
within like the next 10 minutes or so. I want to
sure.
clarify to your title, just chatting with a Nazi. I am not a national socialist. I'm not Nazi. I'm
How would you
pretty
describe
sure
yourself? Are you paleo-conservative?
I'm paleo libertarian nationalist. I used to
I
be,
see.
yeah, I used to be a monarchist, albeit I differ from other libertarians as I realize democracy has been a fraud. I've read Hoppe there, so you have that going. But I'm
Well,
still very much.
well, back
A,
well, back where I come from, we speak a different language. And what do you describe your shit as again? Fucking paleo nationalist. Fucking what do you call it? Shit.
paleo libertarianism
Okay, so
combined with
paleo libertarian nationalism. Back where I come from, we call that shit fucking Nazism. All right, bash the fash.
it's literally not that. This is a Vosh take when he's not calling people gay or closet catboy fuckers. It's clearly a
It's
bad
not my
take.
fault. It's not my fault that Nick Fuentes likes fucking cat boys. All right.
He was pretending to. He was doing that to piss people
Yeah,
like
sure,
you off.
sure, sure.
Okay,
I'm
paleo
not pissed off. I
libertarianism.
thought it was cute as fuck. All right. Do I look pissed, nigga? I am. I was laughing. All right. I'm not pissed at all. You're the only one that's fucking pissed that I'm fucking making fun of Nick Fuentes because he's a gay as fuck.
He's clearly not gay. He's had years of proving himself as straight.
Yeah.
Paleo
Do you
libertarianism.
know how many fucking gay men I know personally that have had years of proving themselves straight? Come on.
Oh no, is this the closet homophobe myth?
Yeah, no, what do you mean the myth? What are you talking
It's so
about?
rare that a person who's labeled as homophobic actually ends up with a dick in their mouth. This shit's like 1 in a million. It's it's
Okay,
like a fucking legendary
considering
search
that
line.
I and most of the gay guys that I know have met at least one person that was like that, it doesn't seem to be, at least in the gay community, as uncommon as you may be portraying it to be. I don't have the exact stats on this, but I think you may be exaggerating its rareness.
People exaggerate how common it is all the time. It's like fucking every progressive commentator says, "Oh, Mike Huckabee's talking about how he hates gays. He's actually taking 10 loads up the ass a day." Shit
Okay,
like
well,
that.
that's a joke. Like, do you not understand that? Like, the only reason people joke about that is because, like, it is a common thing. That doesn't mean that when people are making jokes about it, that they're literally saying that is the case about Mike Huckabee, for example. Like, I would make that sort of a joke. That doesn't mean that I literally believe that Mike Huckabee is secretly gay. It doesn't look like it to me. And if you talk about Lindsey Graham, on the other hand, Lindsey Graham is gay as fuck. But Mike Huckabee, probably not.
Why would he be gay? He's in his like 50s and he's a man of Congress. That makes no fucking sense.
You think that there were
Like
no
at
gay people
all.
50 years ago?
There were far less of them.
Uh,
That's pretty
do you think
obvious.
that's not what I asked you?
They existed. I'm not gonna say
So we
anything
can,
like
so he
that
could have
without.
been gay. So he can be gay then.
Okay, there's a difference between something being possible and something being plausible.
It seems pretty plausible to me. Man seems gay as fuck.
Do you think Mitt Romney is gay as well?
Doesn't look like it to me. Lindsey
Hmm.
Graham, I'm pretty sure about. I think he's the only one that I'm pretty sure about. Right? I look, nigga. I have to have gaydar on 24/7 so I know who to fuck and who not to fuck, right? I'm far more experienced in detecting gay people than you are. I am sure of it.
Okay, good. Since there's been this pernicious rumor of me being gay lately, and it appears to me that you're gay, so can you please give your readings on me so this can be dispelled once and for all?
Nigga, I just met you. I don't know. Nigga, it's not something that you can just look. There's
I
some
have my
people.
gaydar on.
Okay, look. There's some people you can tell are gay, but that doesn't mean that every gay person that you can tell that they're gay. It's just that there are many people who you can identify with a gaydar. Doesn't mean that everyone can be identified with one.
Okay, I want to make this clarification right now. National Socialism is based on things regarding ethnicity, the nation as a whole, Anarchist policy, and paleo libertarianism. Nationalism is not based on that. It's generally not protectionist. It generally doesn't care for things such as race and ethnicity. So it's really a false equation on many
What do you think of the
grounds.
Jews?
They can be very good for the economy.
So
They're
you're a
very
Nazi.
good. I complimented them. How the fuck is that when
Okay,
a
look.
national socialist would
Look.
say the opposite?
Look.
Like they're good
I'm
investors.
100% sure that the one thing a Nazi would admit is like an advantage of the Jews is that they're good for the economy. That would be the one. If I had to think of one thing that a Nazi would say good about the Jews, that would be it.
Remotely concerned with race. Conservatives say it too that aren't even remotely concerned with race. Look at Steven Crowder. If you ask him that, he's gonna say yeah. Same with people like Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens. They'll give you the same fucking answer.
Can you link me a video of any of these people saying anything even remotely like this? No. Okay.
I don't think it exists, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah,
because
of course it
I'm fairly
doesn't
certain
exist
that
because no one would ever say that. The only reason that you think that is because you're a fucking Nazi.
Are you aware of a person by the name of Harvey Weinstein?
The rapist? Yeah. Well, is he a rapist? I don't remember. He did something bad. Yeah, sure. I know. Kinda. I heard about him.
Okay. Okay, have you ever heard of Amazing Atheist? Even better question. It's a perfect segue.
Yeah, I used to watch him all the time when I was a kid. What about him?
The Amazing Atheist pointed out that Jews have a disproportionate representation in government, but he did a walk back, kind of. His walk back was, but it's not part of an international conspiracy, because larger context, they were talking about Rave Dubin saying that. Now, when he did that, he was exposing something pertinent. Whether or not you think it's part of some grand malicious conspiracy doesn't deny the fact of their overwhelming representation.
I don't think anyone denied that. I don't think anyone ever denied that they have disproportionate representation in many areas of government and media. That's an indisputable. No, I don't think anyone's. Well, I can't say for certain that no one's ever done it, but I've certainly not seen it.
Okay. See,
maybe I hang around too smart people.
TJ Kirk pointed that out, and he's not a fucking Nazi. He's not a national socialist. He doesn't agree with their fucking ideas. He literally pointed out how stupid the laws were on the books in the South that prevent black people from voting. He called out racists who had put racist comments like, you can remove the jungle out of the person. You can remove them from the jungle, you can't remove the jungle out of the person. He used to call shit like that out all the time.
Okay, great. But if I asked TJ Kirk, right. But if I asked TJ Kirk what he thought of the Jews, do you think his first answer would be they're good for the economy? No, it wouldn't, because he's not a fucking Nazi.
But he gave a very similar response.
He wouldn't have given the response to that question, though. The response to what you responded to is important. It tells me how you think about certain things. The fact that you point something out is not relevant.
I want them fucking deported, but I'm not calling for them to go fucking be deported and sent to Israel or any shit like that.
Neither did the Nazis at first.
And I'm not calling for them to be placed in gas chambers
Neither
or
did the Nazis at first. No, well, the Nazis never publicly advocated for that. Ever.
I'm not advocating for them to be made into lampshades or soap bars or
Neither
put to
did
the
the
roller
Nazis at
coaster
any
or
point
anything like
publicly.
that.
Neither. The Holocaust was basically a secret. Do you know that? That they didn't run on killing the Jews. That was like
I've
a
become
small
numb to
part
that.
of their whole thing, relatively speaking.
Yeah, I've become numb to that, so I get my details mixed up. So, excuse me there.
Sure.
Okay, whether or not you think that I'm some type of Nazi, can you at least acknowledge that the basic idea of paleo-libertarianism isn't Nazism?
Sounds like Nazism to me, my dude.
It's based on fucking free markets.
Who cares?
The Nazis weren't these free market big boys like people think.
Okay, do you think that my concern with what the Nazis did was with their like had anything at all to do with their economic policies? My only concern with
No,
Nazis was
nobody.
their opinion on the fucking Jews and the gays and the non-whites. That's the only thing that matters. I don't give a
Wasn't
fuck
there gays in the Nazi
whether you
party?
think that free markets or not free markets are good. Y'all are fucking Nazis if like when I ask you what do you think of the Jews, your first response is, oh, they're good for the economy. That's a fucking Nazi shit. That's some fucking Nazi shit, alright? That's what I'm referring to when I refer to Nazism. It's not the fucking economic policy. You can have whatever fucking economic policy you want. I don't give a shit.
Okay, am I a Nazi because I hate Israel?
No. I hate it. I guarantee you, however much you hate Israel, I probably hate Israel more than you.
Okay. Are you aware of the maximalist revisionists?
Nope.
Holy
That is
shit, that's
Dominic
quite a story
Sutor.
there. They're quite the assholes.
The heck is this?
They're essentially like every horror story you've heard about. Insert supposed fascist military here times a million.
Wait, are you talking about Starship Troopers?
I'm talking about maximalist revisionists,
Never heard of
the
him.
real life Jewish fascists from
Oh.
Israel.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me. So what? And you say real
I
life
just
Jewish fascists. I'd argue that like most of Israel at this point is fascist. Like I said, I go pretty fucking far in this shit. I am pretty
it's not
convinced
a
that Israel
one-party
is
state. If
basically
it
if
holds open elections, it's not fascist.
well, yeah, but that's just because all of the other options are basically fascist anyway. It's like a voluntary fascist state. They don't even need to fucking implement a one party state because everyone's on the fucking fascist train. The next guy that almost came close to Netanyahu, what was it, Benny Gantz? He is a fucking fascist too. So the fascist coalition is strong enough that they don't really need the fucking one party state, do they?
Hmm.
I mean, the one party state is only there by necessity. I mean, otherwise, it looks really bad on a sort of public relations level. If you don't need it, you wouldn't want to implement it. The fact is
Okay.
that all of the current powerful actors in Israel serve without question the interests of Mossad. That's the fact.
It says right here the Israeli system of government is based on parliamentary democracy.
I
The
am
Prime
aware of
Minister of
this.
Israel is the head of government, leader of a multi-party system. It has separation of powers and executive and legislative power.
I am
The
aware of this.
judiciary is independent.
Did you even listen to anything I just said?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm just
can you
pointing this
repeat?
out.
Okay.
Okay, you said that the person who lost to Netanyahu was fascistic. They did not need to. Basically, the non-one party state aspects are virtually cosmetic. It's a de facto one party state. I heard you pretty well, but I always
It's de
look.
facto in terms of like the ideology of sort of like uh extreme right wing positions in Palestine, basically serving the interests of Mossad. That is basically without question in terms of like hegemony in Israel. So in terms of like the actual fascistic elements, those elements were whereas there may not be a single fascist sort of leader, the entire system and school of ideology that governs Israel at this point is fascistic.
Okay. Hmm. Why do you hate Israel?
Because they're fascists.
I thought it had something to do with what they're doing to Palestine. Do you know about that?
Well, yeah, that's inherently tied to that. The reason they're fascist is inherently tied to the way that they treat Palestine.
Okay.
What
Hmm.
the fuck? Who the hell is this?
What?
Urban. Some guy just told me that I look like this guy named Dominic Suter, uh, who is what? Uh, the dancing Israelis guy. He's the dancing Israelis guy. Uh, but apparently, I look like him. I don't know who this guy is.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the story of the dancing
well, yeah.
Israelis is a good one.
This is a guy, but this guy's white as. How the fuck do I look like this nigga? What? Am I blind? Like nigga, what the fuck? I do. How could I look at this guy? How? I don't know.
Wait, who was saying that to begin with?
Some guy in my chat was saying I looked like some fucking Jew. Uh,
Oh,
and like
that
I'm
language.
and like I'm a fucking part Jew, right? But like I don't look nothing like that guy. What the fuck?
Hmm.
This guy basically looks like a white guy. I do not look like a white guy. I mean, like not that like a mixed race guy and a white guy can't look similar, but I don't look nothing like this guy. What the fuck? Am I missing something? What the? I don't know.
Wait, do you believe Israel is an ethno-state?
Um, I think it's in the beginnings of one. It's kind of like a pseudo ethno state, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so are we gonna go back to race or what? Because like, okay,
Yeah, I didn't.
read the
I
page.
had only that one argument planned for
This page?
race.
Are you saying I look like Eric Holder? I don't know.
I
Saying I
literally
look
had
like
that one
fucking
argument planned for race
Felicia
since I
Muhammad?
didn't plan for any others. I figured that, okay, there's no way that anybody would want any part of their body replaced with a part of their body from another race. It would look weird if you had white guy fingers.
What? But why couldn't I just get Arab fingers that were the same skin color as mine?
That likely wouldn't happen as there wouldn't be
That's
many
not
Arabic
that's not
donors.
okay. What if there was though?
Then that
Then your entire
wouldn't.
argument is just blown up then because then it's completely irrelevant. Why would it make more sense to classify fingers based on race than it would to classify it based on skin tone? Once you get the matching skin tone, who gives a fuck what race it comes from?
Good point. So I tried my best to convince you that
You didn't do a good
some
job. You did a bad job.
ideas that aren't tied to Nazism
I
are
mean, that
just
all sounds like
objectively.
everything that you said sounded like Nazi shit to me.
Read just the first few sentences on the Wikipedia page for paleo-libertarianism.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
not.
Will it direct me towards Nazism?
No.
Then it probably in the right fucking Wikipedia page. Look.
Think of paleontology. Fuck it, I'll read it to you.
Paleontology.
Paleo-libertarianism is a variety of libertarianism developed by anarcho-capitalist theorists Murray Rothbard and Lewin Rockwell that combines conservative cultural values and social philosophy with libertarian opposition to government intervention. And of course, there's the tendency such as being anti-pornography, disliking fucking inane paintings and drawing, and the fact
That's an
that
integral part of your fucking ideology. Disliking fucking Microsoft Paint drawings. Is this a joke?
they fall under specific criteria of being degenerative, if they're
Is this a joke?
chaotic.
Am I being memed on right now?
No.
This has to be a
Literally,
joke.
no. This is not a joke of any kind, since these are products of postmodernism and they're not good. This isn't fucking Friends.
This is a product of postmodernism? Which postmodernist philosopher invented the postmodernist philosophy on MS fucking Paint? Which one?
Not MS Paint, I mean chaotic paintings in general, like the Jackson Pollock shit. Paintings that are supposed to be deconstructive of a broader reality.
What does it have to do with MS Paint?
I didn't mention MS Paint.
What?
You did.
Okay, what kind of paint did you? You said some sort of paintings.
Disastrous painting, stuff like that. Not fucking MS Paint.
Okay.
Like the Jackson Pollock spreading shit everywhere, hoping.
Do you even know what the difference between modernism and postmodernism is?
Postmodernism is generally more deconstructive. It has more. I'll put this best Buffy speak to it. It has more awkwardness. It's clumsier. By deconstructive, it attempts on parodying things that we like, parodying cliches. It has good elements to it, but overall, it's bad. Most of it is
what you're saying is completely incoherent. You think that postmodernism is a fucking parody? Of what?
Postmodernism allows parody to happen more often and thinks parody is in general good. It basically
that's not true.
The concept of deconstruction.
That's not true. For example, a good example of postmodernist. Have you ever watched an anime called Neon Genesis Evangelion?
I've heard of it.
Does that seem okay? Well, that would be a good example of a sort of postmodernist work. It is not a comedy or a parody, yet still it is a deconstruction of the mecha genre. Something can be deconstructive and not be a parody.
I didn't say that something that's deconstructive necessarily has to be a parody, though. Never said that.
Right, but you said that somehow it was more suited towards parody. Somehow.
Because it allows parody to exist more freely. Have you heard of the Wayans brothers, for example?
You think that the Wayans brothers are postmodernists?
Fuck yes, they did nothing but shit on the horror genre for like.
Again, you seem to think that any parody is postmodernist.
No, I do not.
So what makes the Wayans brothers parody specifically postmodernist?
Okay, they parody something which is already a fucking parody. Scream, for example, in their films, time after time.
You think that makes them postmodernist? That parodying a parody is what makes you. So you think that just being absurd,
redundant, though.
So you think that redundancy and absurdity is what makes postmodernist art postmodernist?
It's definitely a characteristic, since
that's not true. It's not true. postmodernism isn't just like a word for, because a lot of you Nazis seem to think that postmodernism is just a word for like shitty art that you don't like, because it feels like you're grabbing onto any sort of subversive elements and saying, oh, well, this element is subversive, so it has to be postmodernist. It has to be part of the grand postmodernist conspiracy. I don't see why. Just because the Wayans brothers made a shitty parody movie without putting much thought into it doesn't mean that they had a specific postmodernist intent behind it. The fact that they parodied Scream has nothing to do with the fact that they were trying to make some postmodernist statement, but the fact that they're trying to make a fucking ton of money. Because Scream is a popular franchise.
Oh, I missed some. Yeah, I missed some criteria with postmodernism, but at that point we were specifically talking about art, since it derived from me explaining what paleo-libertarianism is, and you thought I said MS Paint, and I clarified that, and I listed some films and entertainment, for example, since that's much more interesting to go over with postmodernism.
Okay, but the examples that you listed in terms of entertainment were ridiculous. I understood what you said. Going over a fucking rundown with me again does not change the point. The point is that this idea that you seem to have that the Wayans brothers are somehow making a postmodernist statement with Scary Movie is absurd.
Okay. I have a very inconvenient source for you.
Sure.
Skip down to the section of the page that's titled Other Notable Examples under Specific Examples.
Okay. Other notable examples under specific... I don't see anything. Are you talking about the Wikipedia page?
Yes. Look under the year 1996 specifically.
I don't see anything saying 1996.
Fucking Control F.
I didn't get anything. Are we talking about the revisionist maximalism Wikipedia page?
No, we're talking about I'm talking about the Wikipedia page I linked for
postmodernism film. Okay. You said, what am I supposed to look for?
Just type in the year 1996.
1996. Okay, I'm seeing 2 movies, Scream and From Dusk Till Dawn. What's your point?
Now, the name of the page header is Other Notable Examples under this specific category of specific postmodern examples.
Okay.
Scream is literally a postmodernist movie.
But we weren't talking about Scream, we were talking about the Wayans
The parody
brothers.
of it.
Just because something is a parody of something else doesn't make it postmodernist. You do realize that being a parody does not make you postmodernist. I went over this before.
I understand that, but it's a parody of fucking postmodernism.
Who cares? Who cares? To be postmodernist, you actually have to have some sort of thought behind it. You can't just make a parody of a postmodernist film and automatically be postmodernist. That's not how it works. Postmodernism is an actual way of seeing the world. You can't just be postmodernist because you reference postmodernism.
But it has specific elements to it, which are postmodernist and
such as what?
It's subversive at every.
Do you think that subversion is the only thing that makes postmodernism postmodernism?
Quality.
No, it's not. It's not. Subversion for the sake of subversion is absolutely not a quality of postmodernism. It shows that you know nothing about what postmodernism actually is. Have you ever read a postmodernist text, like a text from an actual postmodernist philosopher? Name one. Can you actually name a text, much less read one? Name one.
I have not read.
Okay, so you haven't. So you don't know anything about postmodernism, yet you feel so confident in stating to a person who actually has read postmodernist literature that certain things are postmodernist without actually understanding what the fuck postmodernism even is. What is it? You haven't even defined it yet. What is postmodernism?
I didn't think I'd be debating it. You're gonna forget some ideas, but I've definitely watched tutorials on it.
You haven't communicated any coherent ideas. You came in here for a debate, or not a debate on this, certainly. But it doesn't seem like you came into this prepared for anything. You don't know anything that you're talking about. Still, you feel so sure in commenting on things that you know nothing about. This is my problem that I have with fucking internet people. They know nothing yet they feel because they can do research on fucking Wikipedia that they actually know things when they don't.
I'm not a fucking Wikipedia fag.
No, but clearly you are, because all you've been linking me. Do you want me to show a fucking screen? Let me fucking print screen this shit. All you've been sending me are fucking Wikipedia pages.
Since it's the easiest to understand.
What? You can send me fucking anything. Anything. Alright? If it's making your point, make your fucking point.
It's like I literally linked a simple Wikipedia fucking article from the simple Wikipedia.
And what did you prove with that? You proved nothing. The thing that you thought proved your point did not. What was your aim here?
Well, my aim most definitely coming into this was asking specific questions on broad economics, but that topic was unfortunately a dead end. The race topic didn't go well, and just I'm liking sifting through our current disagreements.
Okay, you're trying to make this case about your ideology is based off a dislike for postmodernism. Yet still, it is clear to me.
Okay, let me
you cited as one of the main things that define paleoconservatism as you not liking the chaotic nature of modern art or whatever, and you cited postmodernism as a prominent influence on that. Yet still, you don't even know what postmodernism even is, or why the people who do postmodernist art even do anything that they do. Do you know even why the points that people who are engaging in postmodernist art are trying to make, or do you just see
narrative? They don't want to believe in simple dichotomies like the working class versus the bourgeoisie. They want to.
Well, certainly that is one element of it, but it's far more complicated than that. Now, since you're at least able to understand that element, what part of that do you think applies to fucking Scary Movie?
Scary Movie frequently does this thing called deconstruction.
No, it doesn't. It parodies. In fact, I wouldn't even really claim it's parodying. In fact, I would say that it is rather just shallowly referencing things in order to get cheap laughs. It is in no way deconstructing anything. What did it deconstruct? Name one thing that it deconstructed within, and how that deconstruction was achieved within Scary Movie.
Beforehand did it first, Scream, but I'm still going to count it since it's still...
Okay, it referenced Scream. It referenced Scream. How did it deconstruct Scream? How did it do that?
It showed Scream to its logical conclusion.
What was that?
Looking at two signs saying safety versus instant death, and she runs at the instant death sign.
You think that that's you think that that's deconstruction? Really?
Yes.
You think that a chick seeing two signs that unrealistically have appeared and running towards instant death, that is like a realistic sort of like depiction of how and
Oh,
subversion of
bullshit.
like
Deconstruction
tropes.
isn't necessarily realistic.
Well, it's supposed to
Dark Knight
identify a sort of like deeper truth towards the human psyche.
Dark
Postmodernists
Knight
don't
Rises and
deconstruct for no
Watchmen are not
postmodernists don't
realistic
deconstruct for
stories.
no
They're
reason. They
deconstruction.
deconstruct in order to get to a deeper human truth. What deeper human truth does running towards instant death get to?
It shows
The
you to make
joke.
stupid decisions when the fucking
Yes,
adrenaline
it
is
comments
rushing.
on movies. It doesn't comment. It comments. It's a joke based on knowing the tropes of movies, right? That's a common thing that has existed. Like commenting on tropes and making jokes about tropes has existed far before postmodernism. Okay, that's not what makes postmodernism postmodernism. Postmodernism is, as you mentioned before, rejecting things like grand narratives and and deconstructing why the certain tropes that exist within certain genres of fiction may, for example, lead to inaccurate views of the world, for instance. None of that has any relevance to the fucking instant death scene in Scary Movie.
Okay, I have a source on me that does a small. You're gonna yell since like this has like a sentence description and it's still accurate nonetheless. So I hope the lack of sentences and the fact that it's not some elitist fucking college source doesn't bother you.
It probably will. It's literally called. I'm not reading this. It's literally called onpostmodernism.com. I'm not reading it. It's a waste of fucking time.
In fact, it's like the fifth thing that came up lowbrow, third order.
Do you ever think that you might be confirming your biases a bit when all of the things that you read are things like on postmodernist.com, for instance? Why is it that you can't provide me a single academic? Why? Okay, but why is it that you can't provide a single academic source to anything that you say? Why?
Because there are significant problems of bias in academia. There's a problem with vilification of critics in academia. You're likely going to be labeled an anti-intellectual.
Do you think that there's no criticism of postmodernism in academia?
There is, but I'm saying that you can't critique academia abroad on certain issues without being considered anti-intellectual. The room for freedom of disagreement is very
right, but we're
speaking
on the idea of postmodernism, right? Why is it that you cannot provide an academic source on a sort of like rigorous critique of postmodernism? Why is it that you know none of this? Because all you do is you read websites and articles that confirm your biases. That's all you do. You have no interest in what postmodernism actually is. You have an interest in people telling you that postmodernism is bad.
I literally know what mutual aid is.
What the fuck does that have to do with postmodernism?
Like, you accuse me of just reading like a bunch of sites like Vanguard News Network, American Renaissance, stuff like that, or like just reading websites that agree with me and hearing other people bitch about it, but I'll know what mutual aid is, and I'll know what a monopsony is, and like,
you literally told me you didn't know what a monopsony was.
I literally described it to you.
I don't care either way. That's not the point. Knowing the definitions of terms is not actually engaging with scientific literature. I have no problem believing that these websites actually gave you the definitions for these terms. That proves nothing to me.
This did not go well on my behalf.
Yeah, it didn't. Because all of you are the same. All of you fucking NAZOIDs are fucking retarded. Holy shit. All of you are the dumbest, degenerate fucking pieces of shit I've ever fucking met. Holy shit. And you dare to fucking talk about IQ? Are you kidding me? That's the
You
fucking
asked
shit
me
that I
about
can't
IQ. I
stand.
barely talked about it.
No, I'm
This
talking
was
about
all
not
over-
swords in general. All you fucking people are fucking obsessed with IQ, and I can't stand it because all of you are fucking stupid to begin with.
Mike Enoch's debating Destiny right now, and Destiny's getting his shit rocked.
I'm sure, why not? Destiny ain't that smart to begin with, so I don't give a
But he's
fuck.
always considered like this reactionary basher. He apparently beat No Bullshit in debate. He apparently did the same with JonTron.
I don't know if he really
and
beat.
ADL.
Well, I don't know if he really beat either JonTron or No Bullshit. More so that he just kind of let them talk and they defeated themselves. It's not really that hard to make No Bullshit and JonTron look like idiots because they are fucking idiots.
Wait,
All you have
where
to do is
was
shut
this
the
recent
fuck
No
up and let them
Bullshit
talk.
hate?
No Bullshit has an IQ of fucking 68. Alright? He is one of the dumbest people I have ever fucking seen talk. Every time, whenever I see people debate him, I honestly think that maybe this is like ableist or something because he is so genuinely fucking stupid. It's disgusting that people like this exist in the same fucking realm as me, yet
They
claim.
hate No Bullshit like Mr. Dapperton, so it's weird.
What?
Even ANCAPs hate No Bullshit. Like, it's not even an SJW phenomenon anymore. It's weird at this point.
Yeah, because he's fucking stupid. Like, he's genuinely very, very dumb. Like, shockingly stupid.
People always claim that he's
like, there are
big
very
dumb
few
idiot.
people.
Name a dumb thing he did, because I've never heard anybody actually name a dumb thing No Bullshit did. I've always heard these vague.
It's not about what he
complaints
does.
about
It's about the fact that everything that he says is dripping with stupidity.
Name a
There's
dumb
no
thing he
one
says
thing.
then, because I
There's
always
no
hear these
one
vague
thing.
complaints about dumb.
I guarantee you, if I looked up
Example.
I guarantee you, if I looked up the Destiny No Bullshit debate right now, I would within 1 minute be able to find something incomprehensibly stupid that No Bullshit says. We can do it right now if you want.
Motherfuckers I ever met can't even name a dumb thing No Bullshit said.
Because I don't give a fuck about him. Do you think that I keep a record of No Bullshit's wrongs in my head? I don't give a fuck about No Bullshit. Alright? I don't care about No Bullshit, so I'm not gonna have a list of dumb things that he did. I just know that every time that I've seen him talk, everything that he said is fucking stupid. Like I said, we can look up the Destiny debate. I guarantee you within 1 minute he'll say something fucking stupid, and then we can talk about that, if you want.
There is a series of reaction videos to No Bullshit, including literal playlists. So it surprised me that you're not able to come up with anything. Do you just hear?
Do you think that I've watched any of those things? I have like shit to do in my life. All right, I study and shit like that. Do you think that I learned things just like from like absorption? All right, I have to spend time on this shit. I have time to watch fucking reaction videos of people reacting to No Bullshit. I don't give a fuck about No Bullshit. Take another.
Okay, it seems that he complains about the same thing that your boy does. Do you hate woke?
What do you ask?
He complains about the same thing your boy does. Do you hate woke scolds?
Who is my boy?
Vosh.
Vosh is my boy? As far as I know.
He has a video titled Woke Scolds Bad.
I didn't know Vosh was my boy, though. As far as I know, I've only spoken to him publicly once.
You mentioned seeing the Vosh video of him accusing Nick Fuentes of being a super homo or some shit. So
Actually, you mentioned that. I just happened to comment on it. I knew that about this Nick Fuentes thing already, because it was fucking hilarious.
Not really. But regardless, No Bullshit complains about how woke scolds are bad, just like how leftists do. He even agrees with ContraPoints there since she got canceled.
Yeah, and I'm sure he also agrees that the fucking sky is blue. Who gives a fuck?
So is the sky is blue a dumb take?
Is that really what you got from what I said?
You keep on claiming that no bullshit as dumb takes, and you can't name fucking one of them.
Like I said, you want me to go look up just like the Destiny debate right now?
You
I
should know
guarantee.
them by hand if they're that fucking dumb. You should know at least one.
Like I said, and I've been trying to express this for a very long time, I do not give a fuck about no bullshit. So I do not have a long list of dumb things that he's
I
done
didn't say
because I
just
do not
give me a
have
long list. I said
him in
one.
my mind. All right, I don't know. I don't even know what the motherfucker looks like. Right? I don't give a fuck about anything no bullshit has ever done. So the idea that you think that I would have this in my mind is fucking absurd. I've been watching Sargon of Akkad for like fucking 10 goddamn years of his fucking nonsense and bullshit. And I fucking
Great.
know
Give me
that
one
he's a
bad Sargon
dumbass.
take.
And yet
Then.
I cannot name one thing because I do not give a fuck about Sargon of Akkad. I would have to go look for it because I am not the kind of person that just keeps a record of dumb things that people have done in my head. The only person I maybe be able to do that with is Destiny, and that's because Destiny has done something stupid very recently. No bullshit hasn't been relevant to me since fucking like 20 fucking 15. So why the fuck would I know anything that no bullshit has done this stupid? Because I don't know anything that he's done. Period. At least not off the top of my head.
You should at least know what you're opposing because I knew what mutual aid was. I knew what a monopsony was. And
These are
meanwhile,
philosophical concepts that are like incredibly important in academia and are incredibly important to know if you're discussing these types of things. I do not need to know the exact details of how dumb of a person no bullshit is. That's not important to my life at all. At all.
hmm. So you can't name dumb takes from either of those people. That's amazing. Meanwhile, I can name dumb takes from everybody. From like all of the YouTubers that I find many disagreements with. Hmm. From even your boy Vaush, who accused Nick Fuentes of being a gay, of wanting to butt fuck the cat boy, or your dumb takes on that too as well.
Okay. I guess no bullshit must be smart then, because I can't name anything.
No, I'm just pointing this out because I can name dumb takes. I'm surprised that you can't when like you claim to know your opposition.
My opposition is not no bullshit. I do not give a fuck about no bullshit. Like I said, I no bullshit is not within my sphere of like where I operate. I operate in extremely like esoteric kind of like academic intellectual sphere of the internet, right? I do not operate in no bullshit fucking sphere of rat videos, alright? You can talk to Gushin for that sort of shit, alright? That ain't me.
I can name a bad take very easily right now from you. At least the prequels understood Star Wars, quadruple, exclamation mark, hate the sequel trilogy if you want, but don't justify these horrible films. In a comment agreeing with you, but my
I'm gonna have
WO
to
goes
stop
up.
you right there because there were actually 5 exclamation marks.
Yeah, your bad takes. Here, that's another bad take from you is that you hate the prequels and say that they were just horrible films. I can name other
I'm not gonna
bad.
argue that with you because I think that if you
Yeah,
think
it's
that
not political, so it's not necessarily worth arguing.
If you think that the Phantom Menace is a good movie, I think that you're beyond you're beneath talking to. I'm not gonna argue that with you. The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are bad movies. I'm just not gonna argue that. They're bad movies. They're unwatchable.
Yeah, you're not going to argue that since it's not fucking political, which makes sense. I can agree with you. Arguing non-political shit is generally stupid,
Because it's not
especially
political.
something.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, like I generally don't argue opinions on movies anyway, but especially not
Good.
fucking Attack of the Clones. That's fucking stupid. Like, but yeah, you're right in terms of like I find arguing movie opinions just useless. It's really useless because
Hmm.
you can
Yeah,
like
I'll go to
whatever the fuck
Gucci
you
about that.
want. You can like whatever the fuck you want. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Gushin about that, see if he is one of those people. So do you have a good relationship with the rest of the big boy SJWs?
Not for now. That probably won't be the case for a lot longer.
Oh shit, you
Cause I ain't that
you're
kind of
like
guy. I ain't the fucking kind of guy that stays on good terms with people for a very long time. I am a bridge burner like a motherfucker. Uh,
but you're woke just like everybody else is.
I'm pretty sure I said the word retarded at least 2 times throughout this stream. So, and that was purely instinct on my part. Um, Vosh is woke too. That didn't. I don't think that matters. The
Oh,
reason
plus you get
I don't think that wokeness really plays that much of a part in it. I think it's all like social fucking politics and shit like that. It's about who likes who. And in terms of people liking people, I've always ended up on the fucking bad side of that throughout my life. So I just assume that it's going to be the case no matter what. Let's just say that I do not, unless like I have the most subscribers, I do not anticipate myself being the fucking king of YouTube. And even then, I'll probably be harassed by woke scolds every day because I'm not the kind of person that if I have a bad take will just immediately, if I take that people disagree with, will just immediately walk back without asking, without having some sort of a robust discussion on it. And I'm not the kind of person to like cave into pressure, which I know a lot of people are. So yeah, the answer is for now.
Hmm. Okay. What do you think of the current conflict in Iran?
Sucks.
What?
Look, I'm gonna look unless you have something interesting to say by the time I finish this here OU battle. I'm just gonna fucking stop the stream. So
Okay. Yeah, it looks like that for now, since you did take me by surprise on a few things. Quite frankly, I didn't appreciate that. You know what I mean?
what do you mean?
The fucking debate tricks taking me by surprise.
Do you think that the fact that you didn't have a response to my very basic questions based on what you said was a debate trick?
You said you were okay with sources, but then backtracked on that, saying, "Oh, not overly long sources." But
I
then I
never.
linked a
Well,
source and
hold on.
then you claimed
I
it was
never said.
biased.
I never said that I was not okay with overly long sources. I said that I did not have the time to read that on my stream. That being said, I did say that I was highly skeptical that your source disproved the very well known idea of the Flynn effect. That does not mean that I necessarily discounted your source out of hand. I didn't read it.
And then the last source I linked, you didn't even read, and I had
And
to read out
also,
loud
I also
quoting the
partially
lesson.
discarded it because one of the first people they cited was a basically looked like a Nazi to me. But even considering all of that, that I did not discard it out of hand. I didn't read it.
Well, this was, quite frankly, fun in some areas. I can give you impressions I really did like this. Unfortunately, this is not going to go down the best for my namesake. This is going to look like some type of law, even though it's not
Some kind of what?
loss, even though it's not. But however, you can never expect the masses to be rational all the time.
Sure.
Mr. Yeah, you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you're gonna love the Satan.
Uh-huh.
I hope you have a very great night. I feel exhausted AF. Probably talk to you later. I am not a Nazi, and neither
All right,
are
see you,
my.
bye. Man, imagine thinking that you actually won that. Like, you know that he knows that he didn't, that he was fucking stupid because he had to say it like as soon as he was gonna leave. Like, yo, I know that you might think that I'm a fucking idiot, but if you think I'm an idiot, maybe you're the idiot. You had to pull that fucking switcheroo there. Oh fuck, my shot glass. Alright. I'm slightly drunk. So I'm gonna maybe eat ice cream and then go to bed. And then probably edit this into something that is watchable. See ya.